This is cozy. Okay, get my wine because I'm going to need it for this episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Latinaly podcast. Today, it's actually like 10 o'clock at night. What am I doing up? So I had said that I wanted Latinaly this time to be different. I wasn't going to take real life situations and talk about them on a podcast, one for one. I think I actually said this in one of my Instagram stories. If there's ever an episode that comes out that just so happens to coincide with some sort of event or situation or what have you, that is completely coincidental on my part. But if you find that it's on your part, then maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. So you're not even going to listen to this episode until probably late September. And we're in August. So I say all that to say, I may talk about you on my podcast. I may take a certain situation, conversation, interaction that lends itself as a reference to a larger issue. And that is what I'm going to talk about on my podcast. So technically, yes, I talk about you on my podcast, but it's not about you. It's about the interaction that I had with you. So with that being said, today's episode, let me just say, is not about anybody but me. So let's get into it. And this is so wonderful because I just talked about the ultimate life rebrand, reinvention, newness, change. And the entire point of that episode is that we are initiating the change for us. And we all love that. Everyone loves to say that they embrace change, that they're all about reinvention and growth. I'm one of them. However, the truth is, most people only accept and adapt to change when they are the ones initiating it for themselves. It's easy to say that I love transformation and growth and evolving when it doesn't inconvenience you, when that change and growth and evolution has to do with someone else in a situation that you find yourself with because you may love this person. And you then have to self-reflect and ask yourself, is it time for me to change? Because something's not aligning here. Because sometimes it's going to be someone else's growth that requires you to shift and to adjust, to be held accountable, to be uncomfortable. And oftentimes when that happens, when you are forced to change because someone in your life is requiring it or setting a boundary, that's when the resistance is always going to kick in. And this episode today is all about that resistance. It's about what happens when you set a boundary that doesn't coddle everyone else's comfort, when your peace disrupts patterns of someone else's avoidance, when your evolution or your boundaries aren't labeled as cute and convenient. That's when you're going to be called the villain. And I myself have re-entered into my villain era. And I don't think I'm ever leaving it. Because being the villain is not a bad thing. Being the villain is a wonderful thing. And I actually have an episode, I think it's called I Love Being the Bad Guy. And this is kind of an ode to that, but this is a little bit more of a tailored perspective to it. Because oftentimes when you're the villain, you're misunderstood. And that misunderstanding is at the cost of you honoring yourself and honoring what you want and what you believe is right for you. Because when people are used to your silence or your people pleasing or you rolling over for them, the moment that you start to use your voice, it sounds like violence in their ears. The moment that you start to set boundaries with people because you're done turning the other cheek or you're done fuck being graceful sometimes, that boundary is going to look like absolute betrayal. And when your healing highlights their dysfunction, you are always going to be called the problem, the villain, the bad guy. And the way that I see it is, I will always be the villain in your story, because that means that I know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm the hero in mine. This refinement that I wanted for Latinaly, in the way that we are dissecting topics and the way that we are really digging deep into a more elevated and sophisticated way of thinking about certain things, I truly feel like we are tapping into our divine feminine energy when we discuss these things in this manner, rather than throwing out anger and lashing out and, name calling and just doing too damn much. I'm all for being too much. I am not I am not for doing too damn much. There is such a thing as doing too damn much. And your friend is not your friend if she does not tell you that you're doing too much. But in this divine feminine energy, there's going to have to be this shift in being the villain, because people would rather be complacent with a certain behavior because it is popular, because it keeps the peace, because everyone is happy and everyone can be friends and everyone. Listen, fuck that. I don't submit to anything of that sort if it disagrees with me just because it's popular, or because it's going to destroy the family, or because they're going to get upset, or because you could get upset, be mad, be big mad. I don't give a damn. You can go on. Bye. You being mad affects me in no way, shape, or form. It used to, but not anymore. I am happy being the only person in the room who is not complacent, who is not going to enable, who is not going to roll over on a situation because of the rest of the room deems it to be the most popular one. And so you're always going to be the bad guy. You know what I love? You're too difficult. You're a diva. Oh, this one's my favorite. You're overreacting. Baby girl, you're underreacting. Are we fucking kidding? Are we experiencing the same situation here? I'm over fucking reacting. To be honest with you, I think I'm appropriately reacting, because if you want to see overreacting, just just let me know and I will give you a fucking show, and I will give you a front row show of what the fuck I look like when I overreact. Honey, this is an appropriate response. It's almost like for people that can view a poor behavior and you enable it, or you accept it even when it goes against your grain. I don't think that the elevator goes all the way to the top for people who do that. Keeping the peace has never been my style, and I don't think it's ever going to be. Being the villain doesn't mean that you're the bad guy. It just means that you're the only person with a fucking backbone that is able to use their voice and set boundaries and put things in place to make sure that your peace isn't disrupted, to make sure that your morals aren't moved, to make sure that you're comfortable. Listen, if that makes me the villain, period, sign me up any day. And in being that villain and in setting those boundaries and putting those lines in the sand, you then really start to see people for who they truly are, because the resistance that you will get, the backlash that you will receive when you start to put those dividers on, is really, really telling. You're always going to be met with resistance. You're always going to be met with even name calling, and you're going to be met with a lot of guilt tripping when you start to really voice your boundaries and just use your voice. The moment that you start to speak up and defend yourself and use your voice, you are going to be met with such backlash. It is disgusting. And people are going to show their true colors to you because they've never met a resistance like that. because you've always been the one to fold over, and you've always been the one to people please them, and to swallow your pain and to swallow how you feel to make sure that their peace is not disrupted, when your peace is the only one that's actually fucking crumbling at the expense of everyone else being happy and peaches and cream. We are done with that. Because you know what? Sometimes people need a little push. So I've heard from so many people, I love change. I adapt to change. I'm like water. I'm like Bruce Lee. I bend like water. Bitch, no, you don't. No, you don't. Because at the first sight of a dynamic shift in a family, or the first sign of a shift in a friendship, a tonal change in how we're going to be moving forward in this relationship, the first fucking whiff of that, you don't like it. You don't like it because you didn't initiate it. People don't like change if they're not the ones actively doing it for themselves. If you are setting the boundary as the villain, quote unquote, as the villain, if you're setting these boundaries, that means that you are forcing people to fall in line, because what they are currently doing is unacceptable. And those people are the narcissists, the gaslighters, the controllers, the helicopters, and they're going to be the ones, and they are the, oh my God, they are always the ones that it's like, I need to change, and I need growth, and I'm all for growth and evolution and transformation. And girl, who are you lying to? Who are you lying to? Because they're also the first ones to try to change your mind. They're the first ones to be on the phone with you, arguing with you about your feelings, arguing with you about how you should move and how you shouldn't do this because now the family's not talking, or that you shouldn't do this because now these two best friends have an issue. No, no. So when we start to really not only use our voice, but be confident in our voice and amplify our voice and project our voice into such solidarity that it is fucking immovable, you become a threat. And what is a villain? A threat. You're not trying to lose the people around you. That's why we set these boundaries. You know, that's why we put so much work into these relationships, to set these boundaries, because the alternative is that I could cut you the fuck off and I don't have to set another boundary with you ever again. I could do that. If you want, I can just remove myself from your life forever. But if you want to be in my life, if you want to have a part in it, a vowel in it, if you want to have a laugh in my life, and you are not going to heal or change your behavior, then you need to fall within the boundary line. Setting the boundary takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of effort. Setting boundaries for me spikes my anxiety to no end. And I actually hate it, because innately, even though I know that setting these is incredibly important and incredibly healthy, there's this pit in my belly that ignites my fight or flight, in the understanding that me setting this boundary is going to cause conflict. So sometimes setting them is actually conflict inducing, and I don't like conflict. Isn't that crazy? You setting a boundary so that you're respected and that your feelings are honored and that you are heard and listened to and your feelings are taken into account, that is conflict. That's crazy to me. That's crazy that two people can't just sit down and say, this is this, and this is this, and you did this, and I didn't like this, or like, we can't just have an open dialogue of what is working and what is not working in this relationship without somebody feeling like you're attacking them. Because ultimately, that's what the boundary feels like. The boundary feels like, I need to put this in place because you did this. Obviously that's exactly what it is, right? But a lot of people don't like to be told about themselves. A lot of people don't like when you show the mirror to them and now they're looking at a version of themselves that you see and it's not in a great light. And so that's where you have to draw that line in the sand with them. And when you do that, that causes for them to do more work because you are highlighting a behavior that's not working for you and it's not working for your relationship. And so now when this person interacts with you or they're in the same room with you, they have to be very mindful of how they're acting. And that takes a lot of work on their part. Imagine that. You have to think about what you say before you say it, and you have to think about what you do before you do it. How difficult is that? like, like for people that have boundaries put on them, that's what they have to do, right? That change that you are putting on them in order for them to remain in your life, that's a lot of work for them. They don't like that because you having to set this almost to them is like a character flaw and an attack on who they are. And also too, this is where the gaslighting comes in, or and the narcissism, and I love it when they're kind of paired up together, is when you set a boundary and this person kind of makes you feel fucking crazy as though they are absolutely the opposite of what you're talking about and there's no way that you even need to have this conversation because they're not even like that. I love that. Those are my favorite conversations because in essence you end up going in circles again and again and again. And so sometimes with those people, I like to record them. I record conversations. And if you are dealing with someone who's a narcissist that believes that they do no wrong or is selectively forgetful of the things that they do, record them. You don't have to do a video because people get very upset about that. I like voice memos. And then I play it back. And whenever we feel so strongly about a situation and we are setting those boundaries, it's very easy for people to villainize you for how you react to a behavior that some may deem to be not that bad or, oh, it's not that serious. And so that's where we get the overreacting. You don't need to, react this way like it's not even that big of a deal. Sure. And the truth is, they don't villainize you because you want to choose peace. They villainize you for not being complicit in the behavior that upset you and letting it roll off your back. Being complicit in someone else's wrongdoings towards you so that you keep the peace. But then it happens again and again and again because I really think we need to start believing people when they show us who they are the first time. And believe me, I am all about change and I am all about second chances. See, but it's really, really difficult to do that, to accept that someone has changed, to accept that someone is a new version of themselves when you're hearing from Tom, Dick, and Harry that this person is doing the same shit that they were doing a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, did it to you 2 weeks ago, and then they did it again. So where's the change? Am I missing something? So just because someone says, I've changed, now we're just going to go, okay. I'm sorry. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, but that motherfucker has 4 legs and a wagging tail and a snout, am I gonna motherfucking believe it's a duck? I mean, what the fuck? It's behooving to me. You need to stop believing the performance that people will put on to make themselves actually not be seen as the bad guy when it's their behavior that is causing you to react in such a way that now you need to set that boundary and then you're the bad guy. Ain't that some shit? And I've seen this time and time and time again. And when I was younger, I fell for the performance. I fell for the performance and I fell for the mask. And then you know what happened? They did it again. Isn't that crazy? The person that hurt me said they were sorry and that they changed and things went back to normal, and then they did it again. If the performance doesn't align with the behavior, you cannot believe it. I don't care if to the world they are this martyr and lovely person and everyone speaks so highly of them, and then you receive a completely different version. That's where a lot of the misunderstanding from outside perspective comes in, because they don't see what you see. It's not about the person that they're seeing, it's about the version of the person that they're receiving, because their behavior towards one person is not going to be the same behavior towards you. And so sometimes, like myself, for example, I don't know what the fuck it is about me. It could be a Sag thing, it could be a witchy thing, I don't know. A stranger will come up to me and give me their whole life story. Some people will even cry. And the only reason that I'm talking to this particular person is because I know their friend, or I'm friends with a friend, or I work with them, right? So we have a mutual connection, this person and I. But the first time we meet each other, it's all of a sudden I get this version of them. So when I talk to our connected person who I actually know, I'm like, yeah, so and so did this, and this. And they will look at me like, who the fuck you talking about? And I'm like, Fulana. And they're like, I'm sorry, they did what? That doesn't even sound like them. And I'm like, ain't that some shit? I receive versions of people that no one else gets. So to the outside world, yeah, I look a little fucking crazy, but I can't help who I receive. I can't help the version that you want to reveal to me. I can't help that. I can't control who you reveal yourself to be. The only thing I can do is control my interpretation of you, my feeling of you, my first impression of you. That's the only thing I can control, is how I feel about you. I can't control what you do, just me. Because that version that they put on for the world is not the same one that you're getting. And this is the God's honest truth, is I believe that when for some reason people are around me, it's almost as though a veil is lifted and you feel the need to show me who you are, even if you're not actively trying to do so. I was actually at a party recently and someone had come up to me who I saw the whole time, and they didn't say anything to me. They didn't even, like, they looked at me, but they didn't say a fucking word to me. And then the night went on, and then I noticed that they were just like kind of standing adjacent to me and just like staring at me, and I was just like, hi. Like, what the fuck? I was like, can I fucking help you? But in real life, I was like, hello, how are you? And then they sat next to me, and then they looked at me and they went, you think I should have kids? And I was like, what? I was so fucking behooved. I was like, wait, what? I don't know you from a hole in the wall. But now you asking me if you should be a parent? I don't know that they would normally do those things. And so it's almost like when I'm around certain people, it's almost like the version of themselves that they feel is their truth, or the version of themselves that they feel the most comfortable or the most vulnerable, are the ones that they show me. Now, do I need to set a boundary with that person? No, because it's just a conversation. But sometimes those behaviors come out in which you do need a boundary placed because were inappropriate, or they were over the line, or they were out of pocket, or fucking stupid, or disrespectful, or whatever. And what I find to be the most common with certain people is that to the world, they will show one version of themselves. And then you'll get little pockets of who they actually are. And those are the ones that I believe. The depth, the raw, the real, and the true. And sometimes when those people are revealed to me, I love it. A lot of the time it's genuine and it's all love and it's warm and it's a wonderful conversation that I end up having with a complete stranger. And then, sometimes you get the other where you need to turn shit up. And so choosing to see the truth of who they are rather than the illusion that they deliver to the rest of the world will upset everyone that benefits from that illusion. And like I said, sometimes I'm the only one that's receiving that. And when it comes to certain situations, yes, I am the only one saying this isn't right. I'm the only one that's saying I have an issue with that. There are people that I haven't talked to, people that I have gotten into very, very uncomfortable conversations with because I'm going to tell you that it's not right. And I have divided my family on numerous occasions. And I divided it because there was a boundary that needed to be set that no one wanted to respect. And unfortunately, that's what happens when your boundary is not respected. What happens when you set the tone for how you're going to be treated and you're faced with backlash and you're faced with that pushback and that anger from the receiving side? What do? Sometimes it's very, very easy to say, I'm going to pick and choose my battles and I'm not choosing this one because I have already a lot going on and I can't really be dealing with this, or I'm really fucking things up by setting this boundary. It would almost be easier. It would almost be easier on me if I just left it alone. When in fact, that is the worst possible thing that you could do for yourself. I have received pushback from setting boundaries on numerous occasions. And I didn't give a flying fuck. My response: this is how I feel. I will not tolerate being treated that way. I will not tolerate being uncomfortable. And I am not going to disrupt my peace and my spirit to make everyone else happy. And if you find a problem with that, then you can go fix it. And you let me know when it's resolved, because I have no fixing to do on my end. You see, the boundary is a reaction to a behavior that you received. It's so funny is that people love to talk about how strong I am and how I don't take no shit and I tell it like it is. People love that until they're on the receiving end of it. Then they don't like it. then they want me to be something that I am incapable of being. So the very things that make you respect me are the very things that you want to change when I am asking for that respect from you. Ain't that some shit? Because what's really interesting? Since being the villain, I have not lost an ounce of fucking sleep. Setting the boundary causes an anxiety attack. Always. I will have a full-blown panic attack. Because that's the thing, setting the boundary is hard. Setting the boundary is actual therapeutic work. I keep saying, my God, how many times have I fucking said boundary in this motherfucking episode? But the truth is that that's what makes you the villain, is when you demand respect, when you demand a certain treatment of kindness and authenticity and honesty and genuine love. And when you set the tone that you will not tolerate receiving behavior, receiving treatment that is anything less than you deserve, you're always going to be labeled as difficult and overreactive and too much, a villain, a cunt. That's always what it's going to be. Always. Because the thing is that the boundary is work. The boundary is effort. Having uncomfortable conversations is work. It's not easy. Being this person is not easy. Easy is cutting everybody off. Doing all of this work is really difficult. And it's also too, let me ask you, This is to the people that need boundaries placed on them. This is not to my girls. This is not to my girl. Do you think that we want to do this? Like, do you truly think that I want to be the person that splits up the family because I won't tolerate a certain behavior? Do you really believe that I want to do that? Do you really believe that I wake up and I say, you know what, I'm gonna fuck somebody's day up today? Is that truly what you believe? This entire premise about being the villain is protecting my peace, and the only thing that I want is peace. The only thing I want is joy and a good time and positivity. Do you really think I want to wake up and have this bullshit looming on my day? Do you really believe that I want that? Do you really believe that a woman with 2 kids, a full-time job, a husband, all these fucking hobbies that I can't keep up with, and friendships of people that I love, do you really think that I wake up and I want to deal with some shit like this? No, because the gag is that your shitty ass behavior put us in a predicament where we either had to be the good guy for everybody else and take away from us, or be the villain in your story and the hero in ours. That's the rock and a hard place that you put us in between. Because I don't think any woman that has had to do this work woke up and went, oh, I'm so happy to do this today. This is fucking amazing. I love having uncomfortable conversations with people who I really love, but they can't get their shit together. Be so for real. And so I will always remain in my villain era, because the villain in me protects my spirit, my peace, protects my children. It protects them from mal de ojo. It protects them from evil, protects my family, protects my home, my life. To be the villain is a lot of work. So no, we don't wake up and we just want to be that person. We wake up and we have to be that person. Because if not, then we are forced to be everything for everyone else that we don't want to be. And it's about choosing us. It's about being selfish and choosing right for you and what you will accept as appropriate behavior that you will receive in your life. You know, it's hard work and it gives me anxiety and it gives me a panic attack, and I'm not going to lie and say that it doesn't, because it does. I hate conflict. I fucking hate it. Makes my skin itch. But after it's done, I feel so proud of myself. I feel so proud of myself that I put my foot down and I planted myself like a tree, and I didn't fucking waver for anybody. And I stood my ground on what I believe in and what I want and what I need and what I will demand in my life. And so I sleep really peacefully. And I wake up happier, and because being the villain is about being the main character of your own story. And people who call you the villain want you to only act as a supporting actor, one that only lives to please and submit, one that keeps the peace at the expense of your own. Because being the villain means refusing to normalize dysfunction and refusing to normalize enabling. It means protecting your peace and your spirit, even when it is unpopular, and even when it invokes anger from those on the receiving end. You are always going to choose your respect and your happiness and your joy over everybody else. Yeah, you being the villain is probably going to cause a little destruction. You're probably going to have some people that don't talk to you or that step away. Some people that feel like they need space from you, or that they can't be in your life right now because you set a boundary, because you told your truth, because you highlighted the truth. Being the villain means you're going to tear some shit up. But the only thing that you're destroying is the very thing that you will no longer tolerate as normalcy in your life. You are destroying generational curses that you will not pass down. You are destroying pain that was given to you by a parent who was given to them by their parent, and so on. Being the villain means that you know your voice and you understand the power that your voice holds. And it holds so much. You wouldn't be called the villain if you didn't get a reaction from using your voice. That's how powerful you are. Knowing and understanding that I am the villain in everyone else's story, because I am the hero in my own, and more importantly, I'm the hero in my kids' story as well, and I will never apologize for being the villain. And that is all for today's episode. If you cannot get enough of me the same way I cannot get enough of you, go ahead and follow me on Instagram and TikTok and subscribe to us on YouTube and everywhere else that you get your podcasts. Do all the buttons, get all the notifications, follow, subscribe, download. Do all the things for me. And make sure you share this episode with another woman in your life who's also in her villain era. If there's any burning questions, piping hot tea, or you're just seeking some advice from your very blunt bestie, be sure to go to www.ngl.link/Latinaly podcast, where I answer your anonymous submissions very candidly in my monthly segment, signed Kiah. This is the Latinaly podcast, where we are untamed, uncensored, and always unapologetic. I'm Kiah Burgos, your host, and I will see you next week.